I'll continue to use the
Yeah.
landing, but I'll get my feet in there and as soon as we go home, wash.
Yeah.
Race.
So, anyway, great.
Hey there, so that email was clear as mud about the.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
Yes.
there's one,
Oh. So, we'll do two separate things.
Yeah.
And then, now I can send it.
Dude, not much, how are you?
What's that?
You doing well?
Yes. Great. Excellent.
Yeah, yeah.
Pass
the tape share, maybe.
And I don't know if she's.
Look at that. It's work.
Yeah, they even used the right color.
Yeah, yeah.
Say what?
Or on my, or
Well, yeah, we're right.
the book
This is
broke
on
apart,
there.
and I just kind of went, my mind was so,
Huh.
I haven't,
First thing.
when I started doing
So we get
dump.
it's every
yeah,
like
like
During dump is my place for
I think
mine.
there's a little gear in there cranking up.
Yeah, I missed that.
did you print out the,
Oh shoot.
that's all right,
No, it was the
Nostrum annotated stuff.
I don't have my keys with me either.
That's all right. I'm gonna send you an email, but
I've had a very hectic month.
Okay.
Have you?
Yeah.
No worries.
You get tired.
Get tired?
Or you get tired, it makes you tired, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's, yeah. And, this week is a tough week. Monday, like some months line up that I have everything that I need. Like everything is in one week.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, oh, nice.
yeah, it's awesome. So what the heck did I have Monday? I don't
David.
even remember now.
I think that's you.
When I had something Monday night. Oh, I had the land surveyor and I had to go speak to a young surveyors group right after work Monday night. So I went straight from work. My wife was away. Straight, and I had kids, so it's straight from work to this meeting. Kind of like,
These newfangled
planning board.
microphones.
Last night I had
We
off.
should have been here with this.
Tonight I have conservation tomorrow night for work. We got a team running 5K up in Kennebunk. It's like,
Really?
yeah, 4 nights this week in a row.
I heard,
What are you
yeah.
doing?
I watched it on
Yeah,
TV.
I know,
we don't
right?
have our guest speakers
Trying to
for it.
sleep.
Yeah, no kidding.
This is July.
I'm like, I'm
Work on
so
some
tired.
good neck.
Not bad.
Just to keep up.
I watched because I want to see when it's gotten almost done for dinner.
We're going up
And it was like, well, I'm gonna just eat mine and watch dinner, watch
radio station down east in Cutler, Maine.
13th, 2023 Conservation Commission meeting, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, Sue.
Okay. How are we doing here? Let's see. Ellen Snyder,
Here?
Melissa Sharple,
I'm here.
David Bell,
Yeah.
Jeff Goldman,
Present.
Tom Jones,
Here.
and Brian Ward,
Here.
and Chris Weisman.
Thank you, yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard from Julie, Colin, and Sam. None of those could be here tonight. None of them could be here tonight. All right, we will open up to public comment. If you could state your name and where you live.
Hi, I'm Dale Pike, 30 Smith Garrison Road. I'm also on the Ad Hoc Riverfront Committee. My journey here came, I had a message last week from Suzanne Peterson from the Lamprey River Advisory Committee advocating for signage at Shanda Park relative to contamination in that area. And we had a neighborhood event in my neighborhood on Saturday. I saw Amy from the rec committee there, and I asked her what her thoughts were, and she said, well, you should ask Ellen and talk to the Conservation Commission. So I think you probably all are aware of the situation. It goes back for years that people had wondered about Moonlight Brook, but testing has been done the last few years by UNH, and it shows human DNA from fecal origin in Moonlight Brook. And the question is, we have signs up there now because of the sewer leaks at such and high fecal bacteria in the Newmarket harbor. We're aware of that. Should we go back to no signage when the sewer leak is fixed, knowing that Moonlight Brook continues to have contamination issues? I think that's the crux of Lamprey River Advisory Committee. That's the crux of their letter that they wrote to DES, which, I understand why that was sort of an aggressive thing to do. But I think at the end of the day, having, as part of activities for the Riverfront Committee, I spent some time at Shanda Park, and I've seen children go down and play in the Moonlight Brook water, and people play there, they feed ducks there, and I've talked to people that were at that neighborhood gathering that I just met in my neighborhood, and they have small children, and they bring them to Shanda Park, and their kids like to play in the water. I think when I asked them, they certainly wanted to know what the issues were at Shanda Park, and I think removing the current signs and having no signs does not seem to me the best path forward. I think some sign that says, we recognize where we have been made aware of contaminations in Moonlight Brook, and the town is taking extensive steps to rectify that issue. But something to the effect of not playing in the brook, and just it also would be an opportunity to maybe have some signage to reminding people why we say don't feed the ducks here, because ducks poop. So I think that's really why I'm here, just to say I'm speaking out. It's the park you guys manage, and I think we should not leave it without some signage until the waters, we resolve the issue. And that's all.
Thank you, Dale. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dale.
And we'll probably take this up either, I don't know if we'll talk about it under town council or at a future meeting. So more to come, I think, on that topic or under our Shanda Park discussion. So our guest speaker, Casella, was not able to come tonight, so we're going to move along. summer, which is great. We can get out early. So let's take a look at our minutes from June 8th. Are there any changes to those minutes?
Yes. I just noticed that in a couple of places it referred to Colin White when I think it meant a different Colin.
Okay, is that in these minutes as well? Yeah. Okay.
It's in the, well, it's in non-public, and the public is on page 2.
Okay, great.
Mine
All right.
went to the past, so.
It is funny that we have two
I-
people with the same name.
Yeah. And
Great.
when Proof did it.
I emailed you about it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Oh.
a little while ago.
Okay, so if wherever that happens, you can change that back to.
I will change that back.
All right, sounds
And
good.
also in the non-public.
Any other changes to these public minutes, June 8th? Can I have a motion to approve as amended?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, second?
Second.
Melissa? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
I'll abstain, I wasn't here.
All right.
I was just, am I voting tonight or not?
Oh, sorry, thank you. I always forget. Yes, I'm appointing Tom
Oh,
as
sorry,
a
I forgot.
voting member.
Sorry, they don't vote on this one. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So let's take that back.
We're gonna be
We'll
like
step
that.
back. It's July, I guess. Let's step back a sec. I'm going to appoint Tom as a voting member, and yes, Brian as your ad hoc on our, or ex officio, so you don't vote. So let's step back and get a new motion for the approval of the minutes as amended.
I actually wasn't here last
I
time
think
either,
that's.
so.
You can vote.
By point of
Am I
reference,
okay?
you're allowed to vote on them.
Yeah.
I just always choose not
Yeah.
to, just for like
I'll
historical
make a motion that
record.
we approve as amended. Can I have a second?
Second?
Jeff, second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Chris?
Yep.
Okay.
0-1.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that, Tom. And Brian. Okay, let's approve the non-public minutes. And I think we have the same changes to those. There might have been some, any other changes to those non-public minutes? I'll make a motion to approve as amended. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Oh. No.
David, all right, David gets a second.
Gets it?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Chris? Great, thank you. Okay, financial summary. All right, let's have a look at that. So this was probably the end of the fiscal year, this financial summary. So it doesn't really matter for the conservation fund because of course that rolls over, but as of the end of June for the conservation fund, the total is $189.77. We had a slight expenditure, as you know, for the Shanda Park Fund for the first time in a while for some materials, so that is now at $4,620.19. And that leaves the balance in the conservation fund of $133,569.58. We had some interest, and the great news is we got the $8,400 from the land use change tax for 60 Grant Road.
Oh, very cool.
It was, yeah. So that boosted our account, which is great. And let's see. Yeah, anything more significant there on that fund, unless anybody has any questions. The general fund, we have a balance of $1,021.57. So that will actually probably revert back to the general fund since it's the end of the fiscal year for the general fund, because that doesn't roll over. So we did very well. We'll talk about our next year's budget, which will be fiscal year 25. Yeah, because we're moving into 24. And I don't know that we're going to want to ask for more money, but we need to shift where some of the money is in the different accounts, because we ended up with too much in the part-time salary and not enough in some of the other ones. So I think in August, when we have our meeting, we'll talk about how to request that budget for the general fund next year. Any questions about that? All right. Yeah, I think we're pretty good shape. Okay, so that's the financial report. Committee reports, Town Council, Brian.
Okay. Well, I guess I should start with response to and the ad hoc river front advisory didn't tell the Town Council before they sent their letter. but Steve Fournier talked to our budget and to Barton Lindsay about it, and he sent out a response letter. I can read that into the record now, if that's helpful.
Sure.
Okay.
Just, could you just set the stage, so I don't know everybody, because I don't think these letters were public. The Lamprey River Advisory Committee wrote a letter to New Hampshire DES.
Yes.
Concerned about the contamination in the river.
Yes. And my understanding is that when the town has looked at it, we haven't either found it or it's not coming from the town.
I think we don't know where the source is in Moonlight
Right.
Brook, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the letter goes as follows, and it's to Robert Eric Scott, Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Services. Dear Commissioner Scott, this letter is regarding the communication dated June 22nd, 2023 from the Lamprey River Advisory Committee. We disagree with the claims made in the letter against the town of Newmarket. Our community cares deeply for the surrounding water bodies and the environment. In recent years, the town has constructed a state-of-the-art wastewater treatment facility, installed stormwater treatment structures at our schools, public work sites, and undertaken infrastructure projects on Bay Road as well as New Road. These projects provide numerous environmental, water quality, and public safety benefits. We are currently planning an infrastructure improvement project to construct a living shoreline in the vicinity of Shanda Park, Moonlight Brook's outfall. It is aimed at protecting water quality while enhancing recreational activities in the heart of our downtown. These projects are just beginning. Unlike other communities, Newmarket has time and time again overwhelmingly approved funding for projects and will continue doing so, knowing their importance to the watershed. The town is currently working in partnership with numerous agencies to monitor the health of local water bodies, investigate and eliminate potential sources of pollutions, particularly within the Moonlight Brook watershed. It is implied in the letter sent by the ad hoc commission. It is implied by the letter that the human impact is from the publicly owned wastewater system. As far as we know, there is no discharge from our sanitary sewer system into Moonlight Brook. The town is coordinating with Dr. Stephen Jones of the University of New Hampshire's Jackson Lab to select sites for the 2023 sampling season within Moonlight Brook's watershed. And this active collaboration in combination with ongoing stormwater air planning projects will help focus efforts to identify and eliminate non-stormwater discharges into the stormwater system. The letter that implies that Newmarket has been less than straightforward with the issues we have been facing in our community. We promptly notified our residents, the press, the neighboring and potentially impacted towns on what is happening and how we are addressing it. We are also dismayed the Lamprey River Advisory Committee did not feel it necessary to communicate with any of the officials of the town of Newmarket with their findings prior to sending this letter. This was the first communication to us. We thought we had a better partner in the advisory committee. The town of Newmarket is committed to actively participating in continued water quality efforts and that can improve water quality for surrounding water bodies and any subsequent education and outreach campaigns that may help raise public awareness of the issue at hand. Sincerely, Steve Fournier, town manager.
Thank you for reading that.
And yes, he's probably. And anyways, as far as the town council meeting actually went, we're still dealing with the leak, the sewer pipe leak in the Lamprey River. We basically got some better numbers. They were hoping to do it for between $108,000 and $210,000, which will be less than the originally expected $500,000. Basically, it'll depend on whether or not they can dig. Originally they said it was under 4 feet, but time has come, so it's now almost like 14 feet under sediment. So basically, if they can dig by hand under the river, it'll be the 100. If they have to get machines in there, it's going to be closer to 2. But they are currently working on that right now. They're going to try and fix this leak. The leak would be fixed, but it wouldn't be the permanent solution. And like by fixing it, they would then be able to look at, a more permanent solution. The fix itself would last many years, but it's the fastest we can do to fix it now, and then we can look at things after that. On positive news, the town got $37,300 grant to create a master plan chapter for the downtown riverfront. The town will contribute $18,015 to that. And I believe that is the main thing. We also I don't think anyone here is interested in our cable franchise renewal. So I think that is everything.
Okay, I think, my understanding is that LRAC sent a letter, and Steve sent a response, but DES, the
Yes.
commissioner sent a letter back basically saying, agreeing that the town is doing things and we're all working together and, moving forward. So that was my impression of the response from DES. I do want to address, I think, what Dale Pike presented, which was, is there any benefit or desire to have some other signage at Shanda Park? There is a sign about don't feed the ducks. Is it worth having additional signage that says, you know, why it's a good idea not to feed animals and that the water quality, we're still studying the water quality in this brook? Anybody have any thoughts about that?
I have one thought about that. If the current perspective is that the contamination is well upstream or at some point upstream from the lamprey, I believe Moonlight Brook flows behind the elementary school and through the park area behind the high school. And then I know that the elementary students do go into the woods back there as part of their classes, and I believe study things in the brook, like look at stuff in there. And if we're going to be issuing advisories to keep people away from the brook, it might be wise to broaden the scope of that, like make the elementary school aware. If this continues into the fall, if they do a study this summer and find that it does extend further up the brook, it might be wise.
Yeah.
And if you're going to put a sign down at the landing sooner, it might be wise to put one maybe at the little pond or something, I believe is in the woods behind the elementary school that they actually go fish around in. There's like a little bridge over the brook back there. Just a thought.
I think that's a good idea.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering if we should interface with, if you could interface with Steve about it, because.
Yeah, I was gonna say either Brian or I think we should maybe have a
Yeah.
conversation with Steve. Maybe Brian, you and I can meet with Steve, and maybe Sean. I mean, I think we need to, this is a community response. It's not really a Conservation Commission specific response, so I think.
And at what level is a response? What's the letter of the law, the spirit of the law, and what are the
Yeah.
inferences when you do signs?
Right, yeah.
You can
Right.
find that
So
out.
What do you think, Brian? Would it be helpful to?
Yeah, I think maybe we just start with an email itself. That might be able to start, but if we
Okay.
want to do a meeting, we can do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can, why don't I email, you and Steve and
Mhm.
Sean? I think those are the three people in
Yeah.
town that, are involved. Does that make sense to folks, and see what people are thinking?
Yeah. It's a good point, Chris. That's an interesting point. When you put a sign like that up, what are the ramifications of a sign like that?
Yeah, I think that's the, you know, you don't wanna, yeah, I mean, I
The
don't know
legal
that we have the
exposure.
answers to what the.
To
Exactly.
do it or not to do it, is there a different exposure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And I think it was the town, or was it Sean, that put up the existing sign about the Lamprey River? There's a yellow sign.
Yes, about the sewer break.
Right.
Yes.
And, yeah, so that was Sean or DPW or?
Yeah, I believe it was Sean. And,
Yeah, okay, so we should interface with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
That
do
sounds
have,
good.
sorry, just a question. When they're talking about bacteria, did anyone tell us how much it is, or they just, like, how much bacteria is going into Moonlight? Because that's the thing I've not heard. I've heard this, yeah.
Oh, I'm pointing to the screen because that whole show was
Yeah.
recorded, and Dr. Jones has said he could send us the whole point, his whole PowerPoint with his slides, and some of the slides are
Mhm.
easier to read on your own screen than we even
Yeah, I
saw
think
them
I
that
actually
night.
still have the PowerPoint on my lap because he used mine, but, yeah, we had Steve Jones, as you know, our guest speaker in, was March or April, I forget what month he came. But he's the one that's actually collecting the data, and he's collecting it this summer, and he had the previous year's data, so,
So you're saying, Brian, that, and I can't even remember from the presentation, that, the existence or the presence of them versus, what were the counts?
Yes.
Was it like well above X level?
Well,
No.
yeah, that was my question. Like,
Yeah,
when
yeah.
when we found the sewer break, our first question is how much is going in, and it's no amount's good, but the amount they
No, I
found is small.
understand.
So my question is it, are we putting up signs saying don't go in, and are people going to mistake that for they're in danger, or is it just? I think that's something we need to consider when we put
Yeah.
a sign.
Yeah.
People not looking and thinking, oh God, the river is, yeah, or you know, again, depending on how much there is in there.
Mhm.
And I don't
Well,
think-
frankly, the ducks hanging out and pooping
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
an incredible amount of fecal coliform just from that.
Yeah.
And that is something we actually could do, is we could do a little bit better signage on the don't feed the ducks. There's one there, but it's sort of like here, and then if people walk by it and don't see it, and they walk over here and they start feeding ducks, so we might maybe.
Yeah, we can research the other side of the wording of that, because you say, don't feed the ducks, and people say, yeah, there's duck poop, it's nasty. But there's also a side which says they don't want Wonder Bread, they don't want
Yeah,
a
they-
hamburger
right, it's a
bun.
bad thing for their-
It's
yeah.
bad for the ducks, and so, you know, somebody might say, oh, I'm wearing shoes, I don't care about the duck poop, but if you care about the duck to feed it, then care more about the duck and don't feed it.
Yes, yeah, Sue.
All the above.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all of the above. I just wanted to say that in our minutes from, March 9th, there is a link in the paragraph just below where we discussed to the 2022 bacterial tracking and final report PDF to the lamprey.org.
Sure.
So it's in your minutes from March 9th, just go there and click on it. And you get the whole thing.
Okay.
Great.
Problem solved.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
All right, so we will, I'll email Brian, Steve, and Sean. We'll think about, maybe a little bit different or more signage about the don't feed the ducks, which is, it's probably a town sign, so I
Yeah.
can put that in the same email and just say, hey, we're thinking about a couple different things. What do you think? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any more questions for Brian on other topics, or? Thank you. Planning board, Jeff?
So there are maybe two things of interest to the Conservation Commission. There was a lengthy hearing on the proposed 55 plus housing development up on 152 or South Main Street, I guess maybe. It's not quite 152, I guess, technically. I can't talk much about it. I'm recused from that discussion, but I just wanted to make the commission aware that they did present site plans. There were no proposed impacts to wetland buffers. There is some stuff that is very close to wetland buffers, but there is no proposed impact at this time to them. So as far as from a conservation perspective, I'm not sure that the planning board will be reaching out at this point. But perhaps at some point they may. The other thing of note to the commission would probably be the fact that the individual looking to improve, I guess you could say, improve or modify the area down at Rockingham Junction was at the commission meeting for approval for a change in his site plan. He was going to move the train station building from its current location back away from the tracks and into that kind of fieldish area there, and expand it and build a parking barn and improve the parking and everything for folks. And he's just simply basically reduced the scope of that. He's going to try to return the building back to its original condition, so it looks like it did a long time ago. I guess there was an addition added to it before, which kind of made it look funny. So anyway, he's going to do that, and change the septic design a little bit, a little smaller. He's going to put a fence in along the railroad tracks to try to keep people from going onto the tracks. But anyway, so he's going to be moving forward, potentially even starting his project within the next 30 days or so even.
Remind us what he
What's
wants
going
to,
in there?
yeah, what's.
So he's going to use it for his own personal office space, and he does not have like a large staff or something like that. It's like him and another person maybe. And so basically he's going to pick up the train station building and move it, I don't know, maybe 150 feet to the west. And then
Putting everything in Newmarket.
yeah, putting everything in Newmarket, because it's half, the
That's
building
the
is half
key.
in each town,
Yeah.
right? And then building a septic system kind of near the footprint of the old building. And then currently where everyone parks, is going to improve that to a better gravel parking area, and because that's also on his property where everyone parks. And he's going to, adjacent to that, he's going to put in a small barn.
Are you still doing that?
Yes, a small barn. And then a little bit of parking next to the barn for his personal use. And he's going to continue to allow people to access across his land, because there is no deeded public access across his property to the rail trail.
That's
He
peculiar.
said he had been working with the state initially. He let us know on trying to give them an easement to access their lands, which is the rail trail, and land across the rail trail. And that seems to have fallen through. Like, the state was being difficult, and he kind of was just like, I need to move on with my life, is kind of the way he made it sound. And so he's probably still open to it, but he's not trying to pursue it anymore. So yeah, hopefully in the end it's just an overall improvement of the area. And yeah. So like I said, you might see some. His previous proposal was to actually have space for so that eventually somebody may buy it from him when he decides he's done and change it to a cafe or something. But he is reducing the size and eliminating that potential. So he was going to have a larger septic system and a mound and a fence around it, and now it's a very small septic system for just the purposes of an office. But it's great to see that he's moving ahead, and he's very positive about keeping it open for public access and whatnot. So. And the other thing is that the planning board is going to be getting into looking at a rewrite of the master plan. They took some people, volunteers, to form a subcommittee, and I would expect at some point they'd be looking to the Conservation Commission for input. We didn't discuss that. Our meeting was ending at 10:15, so I think we're trying to just wrap a couple of things up and get out of the room. So, but that's about it. Any questions?
I should know, but Brian mentioned the grant from the Coastal Resiliency for the Riverfront Master Plan. How does that fit into the overall master plan?
I don't know exactly, Alan. That's a good question.
It's sort of a new,
So-
it's sort of a new piece, right?
Yeah, so that is one thing that I'll say that was discussed. It wasn't discussed directly, but Phil Mazzaro did a presentation at the beginning of our meeting, and that they're trying to, the Capital Improvement Committee is going to try to work more closely with the planning board to track that finances are being spent toward the goals of the master plan, to better align the way the town spends its money towards the vision for the town. So that question kind of ties into that, like, does that actually fit into the goals of the town, right? As stated in the master plan, which we're all supposed to basically abide by and work towards. But so I don't know if there's a specific chapter in the master plan or portion that speaks to improving the waterfront. I should know, or be more familiar
Yeah, I
with,
should do it, yeah.
with all
So I have to
aspects
be a
of the
part
master
here at one of our
plan.
meetings, okay. But if
Or-
anybody's
yes,
particularly.
or should there be one if it's not exactly?
Yeah. So if anybody's particularly interested in master plan stuff, at some point maybe there'll be a request to have a rep.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was not one of the ones that volunteered for it. I have a lot going on, and adding that to my plate was not in the
No, you're,
cards.
you're
So,
doing a lot. Great, any more questions for Jeff on the planning side? Thank you, Jeff.
Sure.
Sam couldn't be here for the Riverfront Advisory Committee. I think they're just plugging along. I think the new grant for the Riverfront Master Plan is pretty exciting for the Riverfront Advisory Committee. Sam did pass along, we recall last fall we had Kim Arlen from the Nature Conservancy with the oyster gardening. So they are moving forward. If you know Shanda Park and you walk across Moonlight Brook and you go around out to where the dock is for launching a canoe or kayak, I guess. There's some nice stone blocks, and there's like some iron hooks. Well, that's where we had decided where the oyster garden would go, so they just hang it off that. And they're ready to put it out there probably before August 1st. And Kim is going to send me some information, so we'll put it in the weekly e-news and talk about it. And then they're going to host, I think, one public event in August and one in September. I assume to invite people down there to learn about the oyster gardening and so forth. So, Interestingly, you know, oysters are helping to filter the water quality, which is smack right where Moonlight Brook, so
Yeah.
hopefully this
They
will
should
help.
grow nice and fast.
Lots of nutrients absorbing. So.
I know that when we spoke to them about that, they were talking about they had like a small informational sign.
Yes,
Is
I
there a
think
spot to put it there?
yeah, I think there's a spot you could probably.
And they talked
get
about
in
like
the
zip
ground.
tying it to a fence in some
Yeah.
instances, or I'm not sure if there's something.
Yeah, so that'll be nice. So that'll be a nice counter to this other stuff you've been talking about. So that's the positive. It's going to happen. Okay, any questions about that? Other committee reports. Julie's not here for the energy. Do you have any solid waste, statewide solid waste stuff that you want to report on?
I think the statewide piece would be the initiatives going on right now to take back from any municipality that has stored over the years the old-fashioned firefighting foam. And lots of towns just realize they shouldn't have it, so it's been tucked away in milk jugs, in containers, in all kinds of ways, in all kinds of places. So the state is put out a bulletin saying, if you have it, let us know how many gallons you have. And a few years ago, people were asked to report, do you have it, how many gallons? And you couldn't get rid of it yourself. So it's sitting in all these places in all these municipalities and towns and villages and locations in northern counties. And it's all going to get shipped safely in one way to a company, I want to say Michigan or Minnesota, so don't quote me which one, but a company there believes that they have technology that can help neutralize the PFAS in those old-fashioned firefighting foams with different anaerobic materials. But anyway, if they can't, a neighboring company in the same Midwest region, Michigan or Minnesota, is going to take the old-fashioned firefighting foam off their hands.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds
so
like
that's
it,
an
yeah.
ongoing thing right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Sounds positive. Any other committee reports?
Do you have one?
No, I'm on the invasive committee. I guess I picked the right one because it's a statewide committee that meets like October to May. We're off in the summer. So I haven't had my first meeting yet.
I have one Thursday, so a week from today.
There you go. I think a lot of the members they're field people, so
Yeah, they're
summer
busy.
is the busy time. Initiatives, Pathways for People and Nature. We have some draft maps. We're kind of trying to get some other stuff done, so we haven't really dived back into that too much at the moment, but we're still got that as our overall goal. And the stream and wildlife crossings, remember Colin offered to do, he's summarizing all the stream crossing data, and he's still working on that. Apparently came down with a bad cold, so couldn't be here tonight, but he's working on that, and that'll hopefully be ready for next meeting, which I think will be really helpful for us. I did get a email from the Southeast Land Trust. They have a new forest land manager. So he's been getting out to the properties, and he did visit the Piscasset Greenway. And if you remember, the stream that comes out of there flows under Neal Mill Road, and that culvert is clogged up. I think partly for beaver and partly it's just stuff.
Was.
I think it's pretty, the water's pretty high.
It's in that cycle.
Yeah.
Like the culvert by my house.
Yeah.
I think the town digs it out.
I know. This is the one where I've talked to Lindsay, or conveyed to Lindsay Butler, that if they redo that road, which needs to be repaved, it's a bit of a mess, that perhaps that would be a good time to redo that, and maybe we could find some funding and make an open bottom culvert and not pave the road after that because it's just full of potholes. So anyway, it was nice that they inquired, and I said let's collaborate fixing that one.
What's the name of this one?
Chad, I should know his last name, but I don't. Do you have anything on Ashwamp to report that's happening out there?
No, the UNH student, I forget her name. She does come by frequently. And
Lauren White, I think.
Lauren, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Lauren.
Yeah.
Lauren does come by and check the camera traps. I haven't run into her. One day I was working from home, and I looked out the window, and she was getting back in her car and leaving, and I didn't even know she had been there. So I don't, she parks like right outside the window too.
Yeah.
And I didn't even
Well,
notice.
she's just in the middle of collecting data, right? So it'll
Yeah.
be fall or sometime she processes.
Yeah, I'd like to find out eventually. I can shoot her an email and see if she's
Yeah,
seen
maybe just-
anything.
yeah.
I know that since we saw that one landing turtle get hit, we have not seen another one yet this summer.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they're not there.
about
Yep,
it, yeah.
there's been a lot of beaver
Oh,
activity lately, so again, so they keep digging it out, the town will come dig it out, and the beavers, like, literally the next day,
Yeah.
the water is back up again.
Is the water really high this year compared to past
It
years?
was at one point, very briefly. It, like maybe 2 weeks ago, we
Yeah.
were getting a
That's when
significant
I
amount
saw
of
the
rain,
beaver walking
and the
around.
beaver was up and had it blocked, and the water was kind of like it was kind of, you know, a little higher than it normally used to be, like a foot below the surface of the road, and maybe a foot and a half.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like right now it's not high at all. It's
Yeah.
low. It's you know, because they dug it out a few weeks
Yeah.
ago. And didn't completely fill.
DPW does that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. They come out with a backhoe and in a dump truck, I believe, a small dump truck, and they haul off some mud. Because it's been mostly mud. There have not been trees there blocking that culvert at all, or even hardly any branches. It's mostly just been packed with mud. Actually.
Well, that's probably where the old, that was where the old beaver dam was. It's where we put roads in the old days, is where the beaver dams was. That's where the roads were built.
Oh
So
yeah.
Beavers were there first. But
Yeah, that's a very old road.
Yeah.
That road has been there. My understanding is that from folks that have lived on that area for a while is that that was not much of a wetland 50 years ago or 60 years ago. It was pretty much. I was told cows used to, when the Hoyts owned that property, that cows used to graze out there. And when they built they improved the road, maybe created more of a causeway than there used to be, and dammed it up a little more.
And we pinched everything into their own smaller and smaller habitats. So.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Did Doug Seiden come and look at the variegated,
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. It's there. It's turning brown actually, which is weird. I ran by it yesterday and it was brown. It wasn't fully dead, but like as opposed to the other ones around it, it actually had curled brown edges on its leaves, and the other ones don't, which I thought was interesting.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. Great. All right. Pulmonary pathways. Any updates?
No, I don't have any update
Alright.
there.
Okay, conservation easement monitoring. I sent you something about, we currently have a contract with the Southeast Land Trust. It was recorded back in 2004 when the Hilton Conservation easement was acquired by the town, and back then it was the Rockingham Land Trust. And I believe we did this, I'm not sure, I was on the commission then, I can't remember. Because George Wynn Hilton was on the commission, so I think there was a thought that, monitoring an easement that's held by a member of the Conservation Commission can be a little awkward when you're monitoring your neighbor's property kind of thing. But this recorded document, it's pretty complicated, and it requires CELT to monitor the easement and maintain the records, but if there's any violations, they will help, but we still would have to pay them extra money. So it's not like we get any benefit by really having this complicated document. So I met with the Southeast Land Trust, Deborah Gord, who oversees all of their easement monitoring for their own easements, and also they do contract with other towns. I know they do a lot for the town of Brentwood. So I suggested, because we have talked a little bit in the past about whether we want someone like CELT to monitor additional easements besides the Hilton easement. And so Deborah recommended that we terminate this agreement and that we create a new contract, which is the one I sent you, which is 2 pages, which basically just contracts CELT to do the monitoring every year and write the report. And the monitoring can be on the ground, like we typically do, or they can do aerial monitoring, which they do rotate through, because you don't always have to monitor a property on the ground. You can do some aerial monitoring. They have really good aerial photos that are taken by, they contract that. And you can see whether someone's built a house or built a driveway or built a structure. I mean, that's kind of the main stuff. So one thing we could do is terminate this contract, sign a new contract, and what we put in that as a draft for our review was up to $1,000. And what we do is we say every year in January, whatever, say, hey, CELT, we want you to monitor Hilton and maybe Nostrum this year. And so we have up to $1,000 to to spend that year. And so we're not agreeing to them doing, you know, certain easements every year, but we can decide if we think we don't have the capacity and we want them to monitor X, Y, and Z. That makes a lot of sense to me. I know we've done a pretty good job over the last few years, but commissions change, we're volunteers. I think it's really helpful to have a professional organization do some of the monitoring, and Hilton is relatively easy, but they've been doing it for a while, so I don't see any reason to not have them do it. The Nostrum, as I think you probably experienced, Melissa, it's a bit complicated.
It's pretty intricate.
Pretty intricate, and you just, again,
Thank
it
God for
just,
Jeff.
yeah, I mean, it's complicated because of all the boundaries, and they have exclusion areas, and just
Yeah.
the way the easement was written, it's a little
It
bit
was
too
a
wordy.
lot.
It's a little bit long.
There was a lot.
So, I think the way we would do this is if we agree to it, we can make a motion if you're so inclined, is this would then go to Steve, I believe, and I don't know if the council needs to be involved, but we would send it forward to Steve for his, action, because I think he signs these kinds of contracts. And we would draft some sort of, I think Selt said it's a release of the I don't know what you record some release of this
Oh,
document,
yeah,
and then
you,
I think it's probably
you have to extinguish it legally.
Yeah.
It stays in place.
And the beauty of this new contract, it's not recorded. Like this is, I don't even know,
Yeah, it's
you know,
just a
this is.
contract.
That's
it's-
recorded at the registry?
It's recorded
Yeah.
at the registry, so, yeah. So anyway,
Yeah, it's got a book
Um,
and page number and everything.
I don't know if y'all had a chance to sort of read through everything, but just wanted to see what you think. We don't have to do it tonight, but you can, or Tom.
So would you need to, in each annual contract, include the properties in the contract that would be covered by it, or would you just stick to the limitations for budgeted service, $45?
I think we would just, my understanding is that just by email, we'd say, we want you to monitor Hilton and Nostrum this year.
Okay.
I don't think it has to be any more complicated.
And then it would just fit within the budget?
Yeah. Yeah, they're running about $380 to $400 per easement.
Okay.
And so that's why we went to up to 1,000, because it just gives you a little bit of leeway. But if we wanted them to do 3, we'd probably bump it up a little bit on the
Gotcha.
budget. The Hilton and Nostrum, they're really close together, so the staff could probably do them in one day, which saves them time. So it just gives us, that way we don't have to keep coming back to the commission to say, oh, can we approve this amount or that amount?
It makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Will they submit to the to the overseeing other partners for us as well? I don't see that it says they would do that.
I can ask him about that. That's a good point.
I'd give us a report, then we may have to mail it.
Yeah, I can ask him about that. That's a good question. I know the two that were Nostrum and neither Nostrum or Hilton have any secondary reporting, even though NRCS is mentioned in the Nostrum, there's no reporting to them. So, but I think that should probably go in the contract. I think that's a good suggestion.
Well, I think
Because they're going to prepare it, but not submit it. So it's necessary.
Yeah, I can ask him about that.
So is this, like an NRCS has a, interest in?
It's, this easement is not very well written, to be honest. And it's a little complicated. You know, usually it says executory interest or something, but NRCS is mentioned in there. They're just not
Well, I'm
very.
just saying for their monitoring, you know, they have to monitor them themselves.
Yeah, they don't monitor this.
Every 5 years.
They don't monitor, I don't think they've ever monitored this one, yeah. It's a bit complicated, so, but, like if we had them do, which you do, which we're not going to, but if we had like the Smith Sisters or Kaskaskia River Loisel, those reports have to go to DES or LTIP. And so if we did at some point bring them into that, we would want to know if they were going to send the reports forward. Are you suggesting we would like them to do that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they would, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Take it all over and provide us with the report.
Yeah.
But I would think, and also, so they would only do it at our request, obviously, so if you don't request for a year, it's a 0 bill. And what I think would be good, though, kind of not related to the billing of it, but is that if we definitely coordinated the time with them in case commission members wanted to join them. thought
Oh,
that
yeah,
was-
yeah, yeah. No, I think, I try to do that
that's
every year
clever.
still, that they get notify us when they go out.
So someone can join if they want.
Right.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
think it's good that, I know that most planning commission, people don't know much about the properties.
Yep.
One of the ways people get to learn about the
Yeah,
properties
yeah,
that we
go
talk about all the
along.
time is actually going around out at them.
Yep.
And some of
And
them
not
don't
just
know
about
how-
the properties themselves, but what they're doing, what they're looking at, what the process is,
Yeah.
you know, what's involved in what they're doing. So, yeah.
And
I like that.
L-chip pays, what, $400?
$400, yeah. And the only one that we get paid for, I think, is Piscastica Relais.
Okay.
Yeah, and Sam on it, had been monitoring that one. Maybe Smith Sisters, I never quite, it's a little confusing. So I think we should add to the draft contract, which I can send back to CELT, is that we want to be notified when they're going to go out so that members can participate if they'd like to, and that we want them to forward the reports as needed to executive interest holders or other interest holders. Okay, those are good. Good. Okay, so if we do that, do you want to look at this again in August, or you want to forward this on to Steve for implementation?
That sounds pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay,
we
could
can
we
forward
maybe
it.
have a motion that we want to recommend to the town manager that we would terminate the existing CELT contract and we would enter into a new contract with CELT as discussed?
What she said.
Okay, I'll make a motion, Melissa seconds. Any discussion? Okay, David says second,
There
great.
you go.
Great. Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
And like, we didn't even vote to expend any funds, right?
Not yet.
No.
Right, so we'll
We
have
didn't do
to,
that
we'll
yet.
have to approve each one
That's right.
that we ask them to do on a case-by-case basis.
Well, I think,
Say like the funds necessary or something, or you just approve the bill and you get it.
probably in August, at our August meeting, we should probably approve, if we want them to do it this year, we should approve it in August.
Yeah.
The tricky, that's one of the things where, unfortunately, we got a year out for the general fund, because that's where we take the money from, contracted services from the general fund. And we tried last year to get that line item changed to be higher, but it didn't happen, and so now we're still stuck with like $400 or something like that for contracted services. But we can take it out of the conservation fund, which is what we did this past year. But for FY25, we really should put $1,000 in that contracted services line item in the general fund to cover, because I think you all had talked about this before I came back on the commission, that this is really a town service. It's not really it's a conservation commission
But it's really
activity, but we're
municipal.
doing it as volunteers. It's really a town thing, and so it should come out of the general fund. I think that was
Especially if the conservation fund could someday be zero.
it could be, exactly. So this is a town
Yeah.
function that we are, as I think I said in my memo, is, we're, I think all of you are all contributing generously your time to help monitor these easements for the town of Newmarket. Okay, great. All right, so that's good. I'll work on that with Deborah and Steve. And when I do that, Brian, I always copy you as our town rep, so. Town council rep. Okay, so moving on to land stewardship, Sliding Rock Conservation and Recreation Area. We're getting close. I hope you had a chance. I can pass this around. These are the two panels. I did send them out. They're going to be bigger than this. This is what I printed out. So there's two. If you've been out to the kiosk, it's not the greatest kiosk. I would have liked something different, but it's there. It's on cement posts. It's not going anywhere. So it's more of a U, like square. So the main panel, which is one with the blue top welcome, is like 14 inches wide, and then one of the side panels will be our shared watershed. And so the other side will be blank, but sometimes we have other little signs we want to put up to emphasize things, so that'll be fine. So I'd like to finalize this with the graphic designer. I've looked at it. LRAC has looked at it because they provide the funds. Amy at Rec Department has looked at it because we have mentioned them on there for the kayak rentals. And so we're about ready to go. And that will, what's that?
Is that a picture of Amy?
No, I don't know what that is. A stock, she got it from our stock photo. So once we finalize those, we have about $2,000 budgeted for the graphic designer and the printing. I don't know what the costs are going to be. but hopefully that's gonna cover it. So if we could approve tonight, we sort of approved the grant, but it'd be nice maybe just to approve, up to, I guess for now, up to $2,000, because that's what we got left in the grant, roughly, for paying the graphic designer and printing the 2 signs probably at Portsmouth Sign.
So we need a motion to
Yeah.
One comment.
Yeah, mark it up if you can.
I was gonna say, oh, you want me to write on it?
Yeah, right on there.
Okay, I
Yeah.
was gonna say, Wiswall Dam's cut off.
Oh, I saw that too. Yeah, thank you. Put that, because I don't think I mentioned that yet. There's something cut off on the map. Yeah, if we could approve up to 2,000 tonight for those 2 action items, that'd be helpful. And it'll be paid for from the LRAC grant.
I move to approve
Oh,
$2,000.
sorry, real quick.
No, I'm just looking, this is not finalized yet, I don't think, but there's an 8 in the middle of one of these words?
Yeah, actually, that's I've asked about that.
That's an Abenaki alphabet letter.
Abenaki
Oh,
alphabet.
never mind.
I know, it's fascinating that there's a number in their language. No, it's good to point that out, because I did the same thing when I first saw it. So, okay. Motion?
I move
Melissa,
to
motion.
approve
Do we
up
have
to
a second?
$2,000.
Tom, second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Yay. So we've, the parts of that grant, if you remember, we had the hazard trees taken down. We, what else did we do?
To put up the little, fixing the runoff, wasn't there?
Yeah, we did,
runoff
well, we,
there?
no, we didn't actually do that. We're gonna talk about it in a second. We, had Lou Shelley look at the, trail for accessibility until he gave us a report. And then now we're doing the interpretive panels. Tom was researching, putting up some sort of fencing, oh, of course, the kayak racks, duh. Some sort of fencing to prevent erosion, because people were dragging their kayaks and boats off. So one thing we did is that we bought a new kayak through this grant, kayak rack, and we helped the recreation department install the new rack, and then we moved the other one. So there are 2, they're like this, and so people can rent a slip, or they can rent a kayak from the rec department. And so they're in a place where if you take them out, you'll go down the ramp instead of dragging them over the slope. So that seems to be working well. There was one really big canoe chained to a tree that's been there for like 2 years. We thought it belonged to somebody who was actively canoeing, but we realized that was a different canoe, and they've rented a slip now. So the blue canoe was still there yesterday. I emailed Steve and DPW and said, can you go out there and cut the lock and take the boat away? Because clearly, it doesn't belong to anybody anymore. Last fall, it was face up with all water in it, and we tipped it over, and it hasn't moved since. So thank you, DPW, whoever, they went down today and took it. So it's at the police department, and they will dispose of it or give it to some good cause. So we're in pretty good shape. Most people are abiding by not leaving their boats, although I think some people still are. So I think we're going to put a sign back more permanently where the racks are and say, do not leave your boats unattended. So related to the fencing, we decided, I went down there yesterday, it was hot, and there were people swimming, which was great. And they had chairs where we were thinking of putting the fencing. So we chatted and we thought, maybe we should wait on the fencing because we don't really know how people use it. It's a very small beach. In addition, I got an email from Suzanne at LRAC saying someone who kayaks there thought the ramp in the water and noted some of the erosion on the beach, that there's some issues there, which we talked about last year when we got this grant. So what we thought is the fencing is related to the erosion, so let's not put the fencing up now. Let's wait, and we may decide that we want to do a phase 2.
Perhaps if we could put some signs up
Yeah.
to make people think that they're ready.
Yeah, so
that'll help.
just doing the signs right now, and if anybody is inspired to figure out how we might assess the ramp and the beach and the erosion and so forth, that's
We definitely need farmers.
yeah.
But a beach would be nice.
Well, there's a little bit of a beach,
Well,
but
I know, but it's becoming kind of hard.
yeah, it's true. But I don't know if somebody is interested in pursuing that, or who we would have evaluate. Is that like an engineering firm that would do that, or?
They do, right? They do
Yeah,
boat ramps, yeah. We
Yeah.
have definitely surveyed for engineers for
Yeah.
boat ramp.
yeah. I think Sam's firm actually do
Yeah,
that.
most likely, yeah.
So,
I know, I used it not that long ago, and it's cause like if you're kayaking, you're not backing your boat in.
Yeah.
So like I back down the ramp,
Mhm.
and right before you slope down, I take my boat off my car and I put it on the ground next to the ramp.
Mhm.
Right there, 'cause there's really nothing else to do with it. And drive my car out and park it and come back in, and then, I mean, I guess I carry it down, you know, when I take in my son. I don't think he doesn't usually pick it up. I usually carry mine down, and I turn around, he's right behind me dragging his boat. But that's on the, like, adjacent to the
Right,
ramp.
yeah.
Not, it looked like you're talking about the
Oh, no,
lip,
we're
the
talking
lip
about-
that's
Yeah, the
just
lip.
to the right.
Goes
Where
up
the
with the
trees
right
are,
side.
and then the
Okay,
roots of the
that far
trees,
over
it's
there.
more to the right over there, where people were, I
further
think,
to the
taking it
right.
from when they were just storing their boats everywhere, they
Okay.
would just drag them down over
Okay.
that.
So I was gonna say that like space, like within like 10 feet, I would say, of the ramp itself is probably not most
Exactly.
people that
Yeah.
use it. Okay.
And
Are we
that's totally-
still talking about letting people leave their boats in that
No, I
area?
think we're not. I think,
Really?
yeah, because there's slip rentals. Yeah, because it's too hard to figure out then who gets to keep their boat there and who doesn't, who has to pay for a slip and who doesn't. It's just, yeah, complicated.
I know there was an issue with I shouldn't get too far into this, but that when I was working in Maine, AMC had purchased a bunch of land. People traditionally kept boats in Maine way back in the woods and ponds.
Mm.
So they would drag them back there and keep them there for their whole life, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Or they would outlive the person maybe out in the woods and get stuck out there. So AMC, the Appalachian Mountain Club, wanted to remove all the boats, and there was a lot of public outcry. Like, we leave our boats out there because we have to haul in there every time we go fishing every weekend. That doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And this is different because it's roadside, I guess. So they tried to do a registration program. Like, if you register your boat, it shows active use, and you put a sticker on it, and you can leave it there. I don't know. I mean, I understand the slips and stuff, but and you can't give out unlimited spots for people to just leave their boats forever. But there was the opportunity, at least at the beginning. I don't know what they ended up doing in the end because I didn't work up in there anymore, and I kind of moved back to New Hampshire eventually. But I don't know if that's something that had been discussed. Like, boat 7 is so-and-so's boat that lives on Lamprey Street, and they don't want to haul their boat over every day, you know, and they go in the afternoon, but they don't want to pay $10. I don't know what the slip
Yeah.
costs.
It's $30 a month.
$30 a month.
Yes,
okay.
and I also know that there was a preliminary discussion, and perhaps it's something that you can take up again, that there could be a way to go and seek some financial relief that could come from one of the offices in Town Hall, or from the rec department, or from the Friends of Recreation. Somebody somewhere, I think, could be able to help offset the monthly cost for somebody who found that to be a hardship. We certainly want to promote people using kayaks and being healthy and outdoors as a lifelong thing, so.
Yeah, I think the idea was if it's becomes super popular, you know, maybe we get a third rack. Like, we just don't want people leaving boats willy-nilly and locking into trees and stuff like that, so,
Compacting around the trees.
yeah. So it's more just trying to, yeah.
I know
But-
there was a park in the Portland waterfront that had a pretty sizable rack system, which had, I don't know, 30, 40 boats
Oh my gosh.
in like
Yeah.
a big rack thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the nice little ones that we have. It was a bigger system, but that was their solution for more people. Was
There is
a
room
single
for, yeah,
larger.
there's more room for more racks, so that might be the way to do it. All right, so that's, let me see if I covered everything. Yep. All right, Piscastic Rural Azale entrance sign.
Yes, we have a new sign that sits in front of the shrubs there that cover the
Oh, it's
parking lot.
up?
What's that?
You have it up?
Yes, it's up.
Wow, cool.
It's done. He replaced that cap that was missing, so everything is good. It looks great. They did a
Nice,
good
thank
job.
you.
I think I did, but maybe not.
Yeah, pop one up there. It's,
I'll put
it's
it up
quite
there.
visible from the road, which was the
Yeah,
idea.
it's nice. It looks good, and you can see it coming from either direction. So, yep,
they-
perfect size.
Did they send a final bill yet?
Yes, they
Okay.
did. Yeah. So
you send
I
that?
have to send that over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just say that we approved it back in November. or
Yeah.
whatever, so.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And it,
What was that amount? Do you have that right there?
so, I don't know if that's the balance or not. But we can do that, $1,187.
I think that's what we paid all.
Oh, maybe that's what we paid. already.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah, you
I
might
think
have
the
to let me know.
balance
Why
is
don't you
higher
send
than
it to
that.
me and, let me know, make sure we have it.
Okay.
We covered the right amount. Cool. Okay, and then, do you have anything else for Piscataqua?
Nope, that's it.
So the library, remember last year they did a story walk, library story walk, where they put these little stories along the trail. So they want to do it again next week or the week after, I think, or sometime this summer. And I think at Piscataqua Roselle. So is everybody good that they
Yeah.
okay for them to do that again this year?
I think that's a good place
They
for
do. They
it.
put out a story and for little, it's mostly for little
Kids.
right?
Yeah.
And they have little bits of the story as they walk the trail into the, yeah. And that's a nice spot because it,
It's pretty flat. It's
flat,
easy.
it's
Yeah,
easy,
it's a
yeah.
great place for that.
Doesn't disturb mowing or any other care.
Yeah.
Mm.
yeah. Yep. Good, I'll let them know that.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Wigan Farm kiosk, that's still in the works. Waiting for this one to get done, the Sliding Rock, and then we'll work on that one. Dearborn driveway right-of-way easement is recorded.
Cool.
Yay.
Done.
Done.
Yep, so Emily signed it, the landowner who is getting the easement. Steve signed it, and Fish and Game signed it, and it got recorded July 3rd.
So what are you doing with all your spare time?
Yeah. Yep.
How long did that take?
Years.
Very good. Yeah, Emily's very happy, very appreciative.
Starting like 2017,
Really?
like a long time ago.
Yeah.
18.
No, it's good.
Anything
like-
pre-COVID is a long
Yeah.
time
Yeah,
ago.
it was well before COVID.
Yeah.
So it must have been,
Yeah.
2017, 16.
Boulder Drive Trail, that's another colon activity. I actually did finally go out and just to see it and looked at the Boulder Drive. I hadn't really looked at the Boulder Drive subdivision HOA document, the survey, I guess, because that's actually a public trail on the, when they did that subdivision, that's actually a public
wow.
trail,
There's
20
a
feet.
stipulation.
20 feet wide, I think,
Yeah.
actually. So, you're sort of in that neighborhood. Any
Yes, it's my
updates?
backyard.
Yeah,
Ask me how I feel about it.
Well, one of the things because I hadn't seen it before, so there's several pieces. One is the existing trail. It's a public trail. It's allowed
Yeah.
to be there. But it's, as our soils here, it's very clay, and there's a few wet spots.
Yeah.
And I think a couple of my questions are, because we need to think about these things. Okay, it's a public trail, and if you want to put down any kind of additional material like hard pack or mow it or
Yeah.
cut things, who's maintaining the trail? Is it become a town trail and then the town,
Right.
hello, Conservation Commission, we have to maintain it, or does the Boulder Brook Association maintain
HOA,
it?
yeah.
I think that needs to be clear before we invest.
Yep.
I mean, volunteers are welcome, I think, to do stuff, but in terms of it being a town trail, I'm not sure we've come to that point yet. Is
Right,
that your
and
understanding?
responsibility
Yeah.
as well.
Okay,
You know, liability,
yeah,
really.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there town oversight over at all? I can't recall if oversight of the open space around it is just HOA, or if the town has
Just
it.
HOA.
I think
Are
it's
they
just
supposed to
HOA.
report to the town? or
No,
not?
as a matter of fact, I read it and it says specifically that it's just for the HOA. It's not supposed to be, anything besides that 20-foot trail is not for the HOA. If they wanted to provide another leg, which Colin is interested in, out to Bay Road, which is, whether it's possible or not is unclear, I think the HOA would have to change their
Yeah.
document, because it's not really allowed at this point.
I just meant, do they have to report to the town that they have monitored the open space?
I don't think so.
Because there's open space as part of that subdivision, that's not it's not public access open space, I
Right.
believe.
Yeah,
But it
so on
is-
the other side.
Yes, yeah, the side where the field is, through
Yeah,
the
the
woods and
open,
stuff.
that big open field with the power lines and everything, yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
don't know about that.
'cause I know the houses were, in yards were cut like right up to that line, and there were a few trees cut, and with the commission, we had to go look at it with the code enforcement officer, when they
Mhm.
were building it. So I didn't know if there was continued town involvement in ensuring that folks weren't
Yeah, not
expanding the
encroaching.
yards out into
Yeah.
the open space.
Well, I don't know, HOA open space are extremely difficult to monitor. That's a statewide issue because there
Is
is
it?
no oversight.
Okay, yeah.
You have to just, you know, it's granted when you do the subdivision. It's like a great idea. It's not necessarily a bad idea, but then there is no one for oversight to make sure they're,
Code enforcement, not even? No?
no, it's not their responsibility, really.
So it's too, well,
Yeah.
depends on the
Depends.
will of the HOA.
Yeah.
And to enforce, okay.
Yeah, they're very, they're tricky, and on the flip side, the one in Newmarket that was different is the Hayden Place, where Sell
Oh, yeah.
got the land and we hold the easement, so they actually decided to give that land. So it's not owned by the HOA, so they don't own any land, the HOA,
Right.
they just own their properties, which in some ways is maybe a better model than an HOA owning the open space, because it's again very
Yeah.
hard to manage.
Looking back at that subdivision, I feel like perhaps I should have been more vocal about having a different structure
Mm.
as the Conservation Commission at the
Yeah.
time. Or the commission maybe should have been more vocal at the time,
Yeah.
I should say.
That was a long, I mean, that took at least 20 years, that whole process.
Yeah.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah, it was long,
Mm.
I know at the,
15
from the
years,
board perspective,
maybe.
it wasn't very long. Commission,
Yeah.
because the commission wasn't brought into it very
Mm.
much.
Yeah, it was a
So-
long, big, drawn-out thing.
Not to change the subject, but you bring up Hayden Place. Was there ever a resolution with the issue they had out there?
I think they're still working through it.
Still working through
Southeast
that.
Land Trust is still working with the abutters, yeah.
Okay.
And the tree cutting.
Yeah.
I'm glad we don't own that. That's right. Okay, other land stewardship, I just wanted to say thank you to the 3 nature group of UNH interns that we had for 4 days, Dan, Maddie, and Jason. We got some work done, fortunately before all the rain came. We had slightly better days than have been since, I think. So we did some stuff at Wigan Farm, Heron Point, Maston Drive. Those are the main 2 places we went. Thank you to UNH for funding those students.
Well, they were lucky to get to work with you.
Seriously.
I think
Had a
it
good
sets them
time.
on a great footing and
Yeah.
a great
We'll see.
perspective from a professional.
Yeah, it was good. We saw the bobolinks at Wigan Farm.
Oh.
That's
Oh,
really
nice.
Yeah, they really like that. And heard the black-billed cuckoo. And people
Oh.
walked by and were thankful for the work we were doing, which was really nice. So that was good.
I want to go hear the black-billed cuckoo.
Yeah, I just happened to be in the tree under where we were working.
Oh.
It was pretty cool.
Cuckoo. I knew you'd like that too.
And just, I do also want to thank again DPW and Rec Department and other town staff. They're just really good partners for us in helping steward lands in Newmarket, so thank you. All right, any other updates? Things happening? All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Cover, all in favor?
Second.
All right.
I wasn't sure if that was a motion.
Thanks, Ellen.
Yeah, thank you. That was quick.